Hello and welcome to Crop Roadshow. In this series, we'll discuss the history of 3 or more crop cultivars, starting with the history of the crop itself. Then I'll rank them for agronomic traits, which will be out of 3, disease resistance traits, which will be ranked out of 2, 1 for each major disease, and 2 points for historical breeding use and future breeding use. Let's begin. Now let's cover the Haden Mango. The Haden Mango was a mango discovered by Captain A. J. Haden. After retiring from the United States Army, they moved to Florida where they tried to cultivate a great many fruit and flowers. During his travels, Captain Haden had collected a unique mango tree called the Mugoba mango from India. Although most of the trees died, one survived long enough to bear fruit, and from the 40 fruit he collected, he planted all 40 seeds. These 40 seedlings, born from the 40 seeds, were cultivated for 5 to 6 years, depending on the seedling, and all except one was inferior to the original mango. That one tree had traits that stood out from the crowd. This mango variety had fruit that were bigger and more beautifully colored than the parent that they were bred from. Even the flavor was superior to the parent mango. Unfortunately, Captain Haden died from old age before the second crop could be eaten. The missus sent 2 specimens of this new cultivar that had been grafted, one to Washington and the other to the Plant Introduction Station in Miami, Florida. The latter individual propagated this tree en masse, and a great many mangoes were established in Florida thanks to that. It remained popular for many years, but the tree eventually fell out of favor due to the fact that it's susceptible to many diseases and is prone to a physiological disorder called jelly seed. Now on to the ranking. Due to limited disease resistance and its propensity to jelly seed, I have to give the Haden Mango a 1 out of 2 for disease resistance. The reason why it's not lower is because, although it's susceptible to specific fungal diseases, based on the information I have, it's still resistant somewhat to others. Indeed, it's ranked 3 out of 5, with only 2 points lacking due to specific fungal diseases. Now on to breeding practices and historical breeding. I would give it a 2 out of 2 since it's been used extensively in the Florida breeding program, with the majority of Florida cultivars of mango carrying Haden in their pedigree, with only a small number of mangoes within this program not having any Haden lineage. This will be covered in greater detail during the next Momentum Malum today. On to agronomic considerations. This mango cultivar seems to be relatively easy to grow except for the fact that it's prone to jelly spotting, which causes the inside of the mango to ripen faster than the outside of the mango. This causes the seed to gradually break down, reducing the shelf life of the mango fruit itself, but otherwise seems to grow very well, and in terms of agronomic considerations, it's a solid 2 out of 3. As for breeding use, it's 2 out of 2, due to extensive breeding work that's been done with it, indicating its useful traits are easily passed on. Overall, I give it a 5 out of 7. Now on to the next cultivar on our hit list, the Bing Cherry. The Bing Cherry, A.H. Bing, was a foreman for the company Lewin Family's Orchards in Milwaukee, Oregon, and in that company he supervised 30 men for 35 years. He also worked with the owner of the company himself, Seth Lewin, and were often grafting, propagating, and caring for different varieties of cherry. At some point during the supervision of many different rows of cherry trees, a random seedling was found in one of the rows, a new type of cherry. This unique seedling had a unique shape that was more heart-shaped than other cherries. Mr. Lewin decided that Bing should take care of the naming process, and he named it after himself, calling it the Bing Cherry. A.H. Bing actually came from China in 1855, and this unfortunately would be his downfall. A.H. Bing was working at a time of anti-Chinese riots, and during said time he returned to China to visit his family, but at that point the Chinese Exclusion Act was created, and he never was able to return to the United States. But ultimately his last legacy was the Bing cherry, which still lingers on to this day. Regardless of how you feel about temporary workers, this man was a quite fascinating individual, and the Bing cherry remained the standard cherry within at least Ontario until relatively recently. Now to redone the history, let's see how it ranks up. Parents actually have a Bing cherry tree in their backyard, and I've had enough time to observe all the traits that it has. In terms of yield, it is a very high yielder, and is able to survive quite a few damaging effects. It survived being eaten by a groundhog and a squirrel, so the tree itself is quite vigorous. So in terms of agronomic considerations outside of disease resistance, I give it a 3 out of 3, because the tree itself is easy to grow. In terms of diseases and disorders, it is prone to splitting, and more importantly, prone to fungal infection, having almost no disease resistance whatsoever. For this reason, I give it a 0 out of 2. In terms of breeding use, I've seen one variety that's been bred from Bing, so I give it a solid 1 out of 2, for a total of 4 out of 7. Now on to the next cherry variety. It is likewise another sweet cherry cultivar, and prior to introduction into the rest of Europe, they were used primarily as a means of making preserves, such as pickled cherries. The next cherry variety we'll cover is called the Black Tartarian cherry. This cultivar was first found in the Circassia region of Russia, and was later brought to England in 1794 by the nurseryman Hugh Ronalds, who renamed it Ronald's Large Blackheart. This cultivar was later introduced into the rest of Europe by a different grower and was called Fraser's Black Tartarian. And through these European channels, the Black Tartarian cherry was transported to the United States via the nurseryman William Prince Sr., who sold his cultivar through his nursery under the name Black Tartarian. It's a very difficult cherry to grow, somewhat, due to the fact that the skin is thin, so it's prone to breaking. Now on to the ranking. Due to its thin skin, it's prone to breaking, but otherwise, it has really good agronomic considerations, so I give it a 3 out of 3 due to its high yield and ease of growth of the tree. For disease resistance, I give it a 0 out of 2 due to the skin breaking likely latent fungal diseases. No other sources on its fungal resistance has been found, so I can't comment anymore on it. For breeding use, I've got no clue, but I'm assuming that there's some breeding going on with it, just based on the similarity between Bing and Black Tartaricum, although that's just speculation on my end. Which is why I'm giving it a 1 out of 2, for a total of 4 out of 7. And that about covers everything. Thank you for watching.